This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with a mental health professional. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mental Health is a Lifestyle podcast by your girl, Andrea Wise-Brown. So today, family, this episode is extremely close to my heart, and you're gonna find out why in a few minutes. So everything that I do here on this podcast is intentional, and its intention is to empower you and to encourage you to live your best life. But I really want to have real, authentic conversations, candid conversations, because I believe those are the conversations that creates change. And so I am honored today, family, to actually introduce you to a part of my inner family. Let me say my nuclear family. Today, you will meet my godson, who's my son, but I have to say godson because I do share him with his mother, Jamal N Sallam. Hey, hand claps. Okay, so, oh my gosh, y'all. So you're going to understand in a minute why we decided to do this podcast. Well, I don't even know why we decided to do it, but they will. They'll understand in a minute why you here. Because, so let me just tell y'all this. Just give you a little backstory. Oh, wait, I need to tell you this. Right now, please, what I need you to do, family, is to click that little button down there and subscribe so that you get notifications every time the podcast comes up. Because as I said, you committed to being a part of the family. Okay. So, so let me just tell you about Jamal. So Jamal is, from my perspective, and I've known him forever, okay? From the time he was first conceived, I knew him before he even opened up his eyes and came into this world. But what I know about him is he's a handsome man. He's a gregarious man. He's a jokester. Like, he has this personality that's electrifying, and it's contagious. You know, people want him around because he's funny and handsome and all of those things. And if I were to ask him to do this podcast, probably even last year, he wouldn't have done it. like he wouldn't have done it. Like, that's just one thing. Like, you know, I'd be like, get up there, like, get on stage or do this, or you should do that. And this is just really not his thing. However, he is a leader, and you'll learn more about that. So he is a leader, and he empowers people. And I believe that's probably what led us to this moment. And so this is another example of God making crooked places straight, because we never know where we're going to end up or the why until we get there. So keep going, keep going. And today we're going to kind of talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all the intention of this podcast today. Just hear this. I didn't know that I was preparing for this moment. That is freaking huge. And y'all gonna figure out. You're gonna find out why. I didn't know that I was preparing for this moment. It's huge. But okay. So we're gonna start off with childhood. Let's start off with childhood. Yeah. Okay. So yes, because we just gonna talk. All right. So starting off with childhood, I'll just say to you, so Jamal's mother is my cousin / sister. We got a lot of slashes, family, and that's all good. Okay. She is one of my hearts. So when she was pregnant with Jamal, she asked me to be his godmother.
Greatest decision she ever made.
So, thank you, my love. And so, when, so for the whole time when she's pregnant, I'm planning for this baby to get here. I didn't even have a baby at the time. So I'm like planning for this baby. I'm obsessed. Then when he gets here, I'm obsessed. Just everything was Jamal, just forever. So just my baby. But see, that's another thing is I didn't know that I was preparing for this moment. Lord Jesus. Okay. All right. So knew him from there. So I'm gonna let him tell you about childhood because I know I talk all the time. Y'all gonna hear me talk, but he's here to talk today. Okay, so if I were to just ask you, like, if you could tell me something about your childhood, your mom, your experience with your mom, your dad. Come
on. So just in reference to childhood, I grew up with my mom. She was a single mom. My dad wasn't there, which was okay, because as we talked about, in my opinion, I think that this fight was brewing from day one. I firmly believe in God. I think that everything happens for a reason, and most young people who grow up without a father or a mother, they grow up in a single parent home. Things are a little rough and tumultuous from the beginning, and so you develop a different type of grit. And so from there, again, my dad wasn't there. I was raised by my mom. My mom was a cosmetologist. She did hair, and most of my support system was my mom, my grandmother, my godmother, and my grandmother had 7 children, including my mom. So we were family oriented in a way, just like everybody else. I mean, everybody had their issues, but it worked. I think that everybody kind of just came together around me. I was the firstborn grandchild, the first nephew, first godson. After me, everybody tried to use my godparents. Disgusting. It's actually disgusting. My godparents are everybody's godparents after me because I think they seen the example that was set. They set the bar so high that everybody just wanted my godparents to be their children's godparents.
Okay, wait, I just got to come in with this because this used to touch my heart all the time. So, as Jamal would say, not only is my cousin, his mama is my cousin, but also all of his aunts and his uncles, right? So we need to shout them out. Hassana, Latifa, Poppy, Rashid, Alnisa, and Zakia. That's right. All right. So so it's all of them and big family. So every time we would have a party, and you know what, you're so right that you were the king at the time. You was the baby at the time. Everything
still happened to be the king. We on the throne.
So every time that you had a birthday party, right? And for me, I'll show up. I may look like I'm the loudest, but I kind of like just be in the back. No, I'm loud, but
very loud. Very loud. We're not going to take that away from you. This is
honest conversation.
Angie Ponji, loud.
No, but you know how when it was time to blow out the candles or whatever, okay, after they blew out the candles, and then it was like, a birthday cake. So back in the day, now I don't know if y'all do this now, but back in the day, there was like this whole thing about this
first
tradition
slice of cake.
About who you gonna give the first slice of cake to. And so ever since the first birthday, you couldn't do it yourself. But ever since, I'll say 2. But when he could make a decision as to who you're going to give your first slice of cake to. And it's like, all his family around and friends. You got a plethora of friends and support system, a lot of people. So he would always give that first slice of cake to who?
Got to find it in the crowd. Me. Andrea, please step forward. Receive your cake. Thank you.
This was ever since he was a little baby all the way up. Oh, and he used to touch my heart every time. So that love. Okay. So, go ahead. I'm sorry. So you had a family. Everybody kind of rallied around you. You just mentioned your godparents. And so then you said mom, you said dad, grandma.
Okay. And so just skipping forward a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say around the age of 7, my mom got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Um, and it was a fairly rough time, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it meant. I was just doing what I felt like I was supposed to do as a son. I felt like I was there, I was present. But I was also learning and I was growing. And so I think that again, preparing for this fight, it softens your heart a little bit when you see people that you see them every day, and they running and they jumping, and now all of a sudden there's a limp there, or now all of a sudden there's a slurring speech, or these things start to develop. And so from the time I would say I was about 7, my mom started out with multiple sclerosis. Very stubborn woman. So she didn't go get seen by the doctor pretty much until it was too late. And the MS took over her body. And so then that's when the family pretty much kind of rallied around her and around I. And it became a family effort to help with whatever we could. I learned very early how to wash dishes, wash clothes. So it made me a little bit more, I guess I would say, responsible than I guess your average child. I had to learn certain things early. But what I will say was that I was shielded by a lot of it by people like my godparents, because they would pull me out of it and they would allow me to be a child. We'll reference a story here. My godparents surprised me and my godbrother with a trip to Disney World, and we could care less. Like, we had no idea what Disney World was. We go to Dre Dre's house and it's no rules. You go to sleep when you want to, play with whatever you want. But this day, she like, you need to go to sleep. What? I'm not. It's no rules here. Irritated immediately. But we go to sleep because we listen and we trying to be good. She wakes us up the next day very early, excited. What are we excited about right now? We get in the car, we go to the airport, and she tells us we're going to pick somebody up. And as soon as we pull up to the departing flight, she busts the door open and says, "We going to Disney World." It's 6:30 in the morning. Nobody cares. And so it was literally no reaction. Like, we were just sitting in the back seat like this.
No reaction.
Whatever.
No reaction.
But it was great because at that point in my life, I may never have experienced going to Disney World. And so, again, you look back and you see those people that tried to pull you out of that scenario and just allow you to be a child. My childhood was also filled with sports. I played basketball. Basketball was a passion of mine back then. I'm old now. My knees hurt.
Yeah.
So,
but you were really, really good at basketball.
I was fairly decent.
You was pretty good at basketball. Yeah, you were.
I love basketball. That was my passion back then, and so I poured into it. And again, through that, you meet coaches and you meet all these people that speak life into you, and they make you feel more regular than what you're dealing with at home. You go there and you're just allowed to be a child. You're allowed to be a player. You're allowed to just move around like a regular person, and nobody knows what's going on in your life. When you step in between those lines, everybody dealing with the same thing, the person in front of you.
Let me come in here. You know what's so interesting? And you and I, we talk and talk and talk and talk endlessly. But in this moment, it just made me think about, because I used to really be concerned. We were concerned about how you were dealing with your mom's illness.
Yeah.
Because it was debilitating to his mom, for his mom. And so I'm just wondering, and I hear you saying you were playing basketball. We know that, right? Show up to your games and stuff. But I'm wondering, did you even feel that? Like, can you even remember, like, feeling any kind of feelings of, like, sorrow about your mom's loss of her, like, ability to kind of move around?
I never felt sorrow for my mom because she never wanted pity. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think that it became regular for me. And I admired how strong she was. Even though sometimes her being strong was her being stubborn, I admired how strong she was. I loved how she had a can-do attitude, even to today, where she's not able to walk and do a lot of things on her own. She still has a can-do attitude. And it just speaks to, it's just like, being in jail or being in prison. You can lock the body, but you as long as the person is willing to fight, you can't lock them on.
Lord have mercy.
It's been beautiful to watch, and it's beautiful to watch every day. And it's, it's always an inspiration. Not that me and my mother's relationship is perfect, but in terms of being an inspiration to me and just showing me, hey, you don't have to let this thing define you. You don't have to let it stop you. That may be your physical state, but your mental and your emotional state, you have control over that. And it showed me that very early.
Okay, so you never, because I used to be concerned about that, like thinking, like you were sad on the inside about it, and like maybe you just never really expressed it.
I think I was young enough to not even understand it. And as I got older, when I grew with it, it was normal.
That's
my
good.
Mom being in a wheelchair, me pushing my mom, going to basketball game, I'm pushing my mom into the game, locking the wheels, giving her a kiss, and then I'm running over to the huddle. I'm running over to go stretch. It just became normal. All my friends knew my mom was in the wheelchair. Yeah. It was never a joke. It was always like, that's Jamal's mom. She in the wheelchair. She cool people.
Right.
So it was dope.
And she's so young, beautiful. But I will say this, like his mom, and we should say her name, Sharonda, Tony. She the strongest woman, and I tell her this, she's the strongest woman I know. She really is.
I can agree to that.
She's the strongest woman I
can
know.
agree to that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, okay, that was good. So you talked about that. So now you talked about basketball, talk about the lessons that you learned, because your father, you said, was absent.
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you say that. I'm not going to touch on that. Okay. And so it was so funny, y'all, when he was a baby. I used to be the baby daddy. Like, that's what we used to say. I'm a baby daddy. But anywho, okay. So then after that, okay, time goes on. And so then what happens during childhood? Because you go into the Army, but I don't think that it would even serve your story just to say that you just straight went into the Army.
Yes.
Right? There was some reasons why.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to say, that pushed you into the Army, because right, you this young kid, you the boy growing up, single mom,
yes,
playing basketball, going to school, and I will say you got injured because you had a dream of becoming like hopefully we thought you was gonna go in the NBA because you was really good,
really short,
but no, we did have that dream. And I can remember this during your adolescence that you got injured. And after that injury, I think that I know it was kind of difficult for you to, I don't know, to play like you played before the injury. Right? And so, yeah, you want to say anything about that?
Moving into adolescence, I would say that, again, sports take up so much of your time. Constantly training, you constantly working. And when I got to high school, my first year, I went to Piscataway High School. I lived with my godparents, and it was an experience that I wasn't ready for, because coming from my mom, everything was like, everything was chill and whatever. And I get to my godparents' house, and now there's a way to do things. It's a way to put the iron back. The dishes need to be washed. The bed got to be made. Clothes got to be set out for the week and ironed. It was a different standard of living than I was used to. And but I got through it. It wasn't
I got through it like you.
and again, we honest.
Yes,
absolutely. And I struggled because my godparents were trying to show me, okay, this is what you used to, but this is what's gonna help you win. They tried to teach me how to win, but there was no introduction. They didn't sit me down and say, hey, I'm about to try to teach you this, or it was, no, you're gonna do this way. And naturally, as a child, I buck back just because it's like, I'm not doing that. I don't see why do I have to wrap the iron cord a certain way? Well, the reason why you have to wrap the iron cord a certain way is so that it doesn't create a short. And now we have to go buy iron because nobody here is rich. But as a child, I didn't understand it. And I'm like, I'm not wrapping the iron cord like that. And this is a real story, to the point where Drake came downstairs one day and was like, come here now. You will go in here and you're going to wrap this iron cord right now. And I think We always talk about this, and I never told this, but I think that was like a moment in time when I realized like this is very different. It was just a different lifestyle, but it started to teach me little things matter. Doing the little things right every day matter, because in my opinion, that's the difference between being good and great. Good people they're good in spurts. They can be good for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When you great, you develop a consistency of doing things in a certain manner, in a certain way over time. And that's what she was trying to teach me how to do. And I just could not wrap my mind around it, because it was the first time I had been introduced to it. There was no introduction. There was no, hey, we're going to change some stuff up. It was, hey, you moving in today. All right, Tuesday, fold your clothes. And I said no. And so, but I played basketball at Piscataway High School. And then my godparents moved
to Texas.
They moved to Texas that next year, and they offered me to come, and I said absolutely not. I said absolutely not. But I think it's important. I think it's important to cite, because if anybody's watching and you have young kids, don't run from somebody that's trying to teach you the right way. They were trying to teach me the right way, and I was so used to doing things not necessarily wrong, but they weren't right. And I chose the easy route. I chose to, well, you know what? I could go back and live with my mother, and nobody's going to say anything to me. And this is great. This is going to be great. It's pizza party, Chuck E. Cheese. And so I chose that easier route. And again, if we want to draw up a situation, I had a teacher that used to tell me all the time, his name was Mr. Smith in 6th grade. He used to say, the choices that you make will result in the consequences that you receive. I made the choice to go home, and I believe at that moment my life changed. Wow. I ended up going to St. Anthony High School. If anybody knows high school basketball, it's one of the best high schools in the country. Probably the greatest high school coach of all time, Coach Bobby Hurley. It was amazing being in that atmosphere, because I went from being at Piscataway High School, where I was one of the best players in the school, to now I'm playing against guys that are ranked in the country nationally. And this is the first time I'm experiencing that. And it's very different. And if you don't know, if you've never been around sports, there are politics in high school sports. So the guys that are ranked are going to play. These guys that are working in the summer, they go into these camps, they got these names, they got these offers from these big schools. They're going to play, and deservedly so. These guys were good. I played with guys like Dominic Cheek, Mike Rosario, Tashawn Taylor, and these are guys that still play professionally to this day. And so, they earn their spot, but you go from being the guy that's great in this school to now you just become a regular guy that's on the bench, and you're just trying to make the team, because the talent level is so high. So
how did that make you feel?
Oh, it was definitely a gut shot. It was a gut shot, because my summer workouts were not their summer workouts. They were, waking up early, putting in hours late, and all these things. And I'm just like, they dieting, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have a cheeseburger.
No, I got you. But okay, so no, I get it. Okay, so you go back home. Now you at the school. Okay. Feeling some kind of insecurity. Right. I'm sure it's coming up.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure you didn't have the language for that, right? No, you don't have the language for that, right?
Absolutely.
So right, you feeling some kind of insecurity. Also, okay, and so sometimes, a lot of times, when we're feeling these insecurities and we're not aware of it, we start to act out in other ways.
Absolutely.
And so I know.
We'll just skip past.
Okay,
we'll skip past sophomore, junior year.
Okay.
My junior year summer, I break my wrist.
Okay.
I break my wrist.
That was the injury. It was your wrist. That's right. It was your wrist.
I break my wrist, and I have no idea. I've broken my wrist. So I'm playing the whole summer with my wrist broken.
Which goes back to, because I'm just going to do it, because we just talking.
Okay.
So, no, you break your wrist and don't say anything.
Right.
And he's talked about his mama, right? So when we talk about these generational, these things that we learn in our family system that we're unaware of, right? That we think is normal. So you remember I said that your mom, we both said that she's the strongest woman we know. However, to a fault.
Yes.
Because when she was hurt, she didn't go check on herself, right? She didn't go say, I'm hurting, or tell somebody, or go see about it. She still tried to just push through it. And that's what you did with your wrist.
Yep. And so I broke it in the summer. I didn't know because the pain wasn't strong, but it was there. And so I ended up in a cast for my whole senior year. I had a surgery, had screws put in my wrist, and so I didn't, excuse me, Jesus, play. And so now it comes time for us to graduate, and I have no idea where I want to go to school. You're not getting recruited because you're injured. Nobody know what you can do anymore. And then, so I ended up going to a school called Berkeley College. I played at Berkeley College. And then while I was at Berkeley College, that choice that I made to stay at my mom's house instead of going to live with my godparents, it showed its rear end when it was time for me to go to school because I hadn't planned. I hadn't did anything properly. I hadn't researched. I was just taking out loans, Sally Mae. I'm just trying to go to college because at this time, everybody tells you, oh, well, you got to go to college to be successful. And that's what was being pushed. You got to go to college to be successful, but there was no how. There was no understanding of family support. There was no understanding of financial support, all of these things. And so I'm just like, I just got to go to college because I want to win. Because obviously my basketball dream is over. Like, it's not going to happen. And so now I need to figure out on the fly how I'm going to be successful at 17 because I know so much. And it didn't work out. And for a while, I ended up in the streets. I was doing a lot of things that could have got me a lot of time without being specific because a lot of y'all be telling. And so without being specific, I was doing a lot of things that could have got me a lot of time. And by the time I realized it, I was locked up. And me sitting down really helped me to understand how left my life had went. And so when I got out of jail, I decided I was going to the Army. I was going to the military. Let me say that.
You said the military. Okay. All right.
I said I was going to the military because I had no knowledge of the military. I had no understanding of what it was. I didn't understand what trade programs. I didn't understand nothing. But I'm like, I'm not strong enough. I said to myself, I'm not strong enough to change while I'm here. I have to leave. I have to go somewhere else. I have to reinvent myself. And I got to figure this thing out. And even if I only leave for 3 or 4 years, is it going to hurt? Because now we just told you my mom is disabled. And so, I lived with my mom and my grandmother at that time, who was also disabled. She was a double amputee, both of her legs. And so I'm leaving that. But, it's just like when you're on an airplane, you got to put your mask on before you put somebody else's on. And so from that point, I understood I got to go.
Well, and let me say this. I'm going to say this. So even before, because I'm thinking at one moment, even before that, I did. So yeah, when we would talk or whatever, and you would, and I would get notice that you was in trouble, or you had did this or had been doing that, and I'm like, okay, well, let's come to Texas. Like, just come to Texas. And so, with the help of and then we would do a lot of trying to save Jamal.
Sorry, you talking about the move?
Well, wait a minute. Am I talking about the move?
You're talking about when I moved there. Remember, I moved there for a little while. Right?
Moved to my house?
Yeah.
You wouldn't move there. It was 2 weeks.
Right. I tried to move there.
You wouldn't move. Right. You wouldn't move. But you was in all of this. So this was before you went to the Army.
Yes.
That's right. So this was when you were still going through this whole thing where you was, I'm going to put quotations up, thugging, or really trying to find yourself, trying to figure it out. And so with the help of your aunts, your aunties, because we would always try to like not stress out his mother, Tony, right? Because of her illness. And we know that stress exacerbates her symptoms. So we would be trying to work, and she'd get pissed at us when she find out, but we would try to work around getting him down there. So the aunties contacted me. I'm like, where is he at? So then we get him, fly him to Texas. We fly him to Texas. I'm like, okay, Jamal, come on. Like, you can stay here. You got your own part of the house, your own bathroom, like everything. Like, come on, let's look, it's so much out here. It's girls out here. Come on, jobs out here. And I think, well, it's okay because your mind, you just wasn't there yet, right?
No, so that was prior to. But
the Army.
but again, I couldn't wrap my mind around somebody that loved me being hard on me to make me better. I thought at the time that when you love somebody and you want them to be better, you gotta coddle them. You gotta say everything's gonna be okay.
But I
Don't
did
worry
say
about
that
it.
too.
And you did, but then you also would say, you
Get
better
up
get up and go find you a job. and to her credit, she gave me a car. I had a car to go ride around in. But I think that really while I was putting in the applications, I was really looking at the girls. But anyway.
No, really. So look, it was to the point where literally I'm like, Jamal, okay, get up, come on. I'm like, did you fill out applications? He was like, yeah, because that's when the internet has started popping. I was like, you do it on the. I was like, no, I want them to see you in person. You did. So get up with me in the morning when I leave out, because I used to work at the police station. Yeah. So I was like, get up with me because we gonna drive out to the police station. I'm gonna go to work. You take my car, go down to the mall, fill out applications. You can come back and get me for lunch. We can hang out, and then you can take my car again and fill out more applications.
The only thing I did was take out the lunch. No, I did go fill out the application. I swear to God.
I don't know
because you
ain't getting not one job.
I think they didn't like me because I was from up north. I think that's what it was like. Yeah, we can't.
I don't know. But then when he would pick me up when it was time to get off work and we'd take that ride home, I'd be like, so what happened? Did you know? Because I would always teach him, and I teach all of y'all. All y'all be like, you meet people, look them in the eyes, say hi, this is what you... I guess y'all, he said it was too many rules, too much structure. So anywho.
Yeah, it was too many rules again. But now when we go... When we fast forward, when we go back to what we were just talking about,
yes,
I realized that what really put me in this space was I realized that I wasn't about to be a full-time street dude because there's no money in that. Once you get a reputation and you start, you get all the girls and the clothes and you realize that that's not what it's about. I wanted to be a dad. I will say this. A lot of times I never knew what I wanted to do in my career. I never knew what I wanted to do in my life. I never knew where I wanted to go, but I always knew that I wanted to be a father. And
you always told me that.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a father. And so when I sat down, it's a slang term for when you go to jail, because they make you sit down. You're going to sit down in this box. Like you will sit down. That I'm not taking any steps to become what I want to be. At that moment, I realized it. And so again,
that's when I
sat down. I'm like, I'm going to go to the military.
And I would say this. Okay, so y'all, just to go back a little bit. So yeah, after 2 weeks, he was out of there. And I think that was the first time we had conflict.
Yeah.
Because even before, when he said that I would make him do an iron this way or make your bed and all that, he was always a good guy, like always a great child.
In public, I used to go in that room, close that door, and be swinging at the air.
Well, but to me, he had never been disrespectful, like ever. Always kind spirit. And it wasn't until that time where I was like, you need to stay here in Texas. And he was like, no, Dre, I got to go. That was the first time that we had conflict. That was the first time. I would never forget that. But anywho, he goes back home.
But to add to what you're saying,
sorry to
cut you off.
No, go ahead.
To add to what you're saying, just to explain that a little bit, she loved me so much and she wanted my success so bad. She understood that it was a dire situation, and I still couldn't grasp it. And I think that, it just kind of like I drew a line in the sand. But again, when we just talk about not having that firm understanding of sometimes it's best for you to just shut up and listen. And looking back in my life, I would pinpoint that also and say, those are one of the times that I look back once I became a man and once I matured and I understood that she was trying to save me, and I didn't understand that.
Okay, that's good. I love you. So listen,
don't tell me you love me in front of these people. I'm a man.
So then he leaves, right? He leaves. Broke my heart, but it was okay. Give it to God. And so then he goes in the army. But let me just tell y'all, before he goes in the army, when he comes up with this bright idea to go in the army, I'm like, don't you go in the army? Like, you know, everything that we have learned up until this point is African Americans, I'm just gonna say black people, you know, was like going in the army, you are serving in, and I'm just gonna be real, this was the thought process, right? You serving, you serving in the white man's war. Like, they don't care nothing about you, you know, they gonna use you and then toss you to the side. So for me, it was like, no, please do not go in the army. I remember me saying that to you, and you was like, Dre, like, no, like, I have to go. And so you went, and then it was amazing. Honestly,
best decision I've ever made in my life. It was the
best decision, son, that you ever made in your life. And I will tell you this, because I want you to talk about your success in the army.
Okay.
Because time is passing, you know, you and I could just talk forever.
Yeah.
So look, no, but I can even remember coming to see you. Like, what was it? Is it
Family
6
day.
weeks?
Family day. Yeah.
No, I remember. No, I'm going to say it. I remember dropping you. So I didn't drop you off. The whole family came, because, like I told you, his family rallies around them. They could fall out, but they gonna come back together, honey. That's them salams, baby. You gonna fall out, but you gonna come back together. So I remember everybody went down for your, was it to take you? It was like to literally.
I was graduating. I was going from basic training to my job training.
Okay, so we all went down there.
So I was a soldier at this.
He was a soldier. And so after basic training, that's right, we went down and we stayed for a couple of days, and we was at that ceremony. And when I tell you, Jamal, I cried like a baby.
Y'all would have thought she dropped me off in Afghanistan.
When you walked away after, you know, your other family, your mom, your aunts, and all them left, you know, I was the last one there. Always. And not because, you know, he loved me anymore, just because for me, right? I ain't finished. I'm the last one there. So me and Ayana. So we in the car, and I'm like, okay, so what, you need something from the supermarket? Like, what you, okay. And my thing was hibachi. I would always take the kids to hibachi. Okay, so where you want to eat, whatever. He was like, Dre, let's go to hibachi. So we went and we had hibachi. So for me, Connie, it was like the Last Supper, all right? So then we have our hibachi, and now it's time for me to take him to them dorms. And Lord have mercy, I'll never forget, you had like 2 bags that you was getting out the trunk, and you got them bags out, and you went to walk from my car into the dorm. And I'm just seeing these random little guys and your little self, and it's just your little self. I'm like, how is he gonna make it here by himself? When I tell you, I sat in that car and I cried so hard, and Ayana looked at me like, so she just started crying too. So me and Ayana sitting in the parking lot.
Ayana didn't know why she was crying though. That's the difference.
She didn't know.
She had no idea what's going on. She like, you.
Oh God, but I'm like, I hope they don't eat him up. But anywho, they didn't eat him up, okay? Because he became uber successful. So talk about your success. So I want you, because I don't want you to talk about your whole Army career. Just talk about your success. Okay. So the height. Okay. Tell me about that.
Just touch on it real quick, because just like anybody else, I'm prideful about what I do. Started my career off in Fort Benning, Georgia, where I did a 1-station unit training. So you do all your training in one place. I had some of the best drill sergeants in the business, just my opinion. From there, I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, which was my first duty station. And it was such a switch, just to kind of catch y'all up. Such a switch. I'm from Newark, New Jersey. You sending me to Kansas? What is this? I have no idea what's going on. But it was also one of the best things that happened to me, because there was nothing for me to do. And so I started off my young career. I went in the Army as an E1, lowest rank that you can come in as, bottom of the bottom. And I started going to, I had some great mentors. I've met some great mentors along the way. And they pushed me to go to what's called Soldier of the Month board. So just like you at your job, you got the Employee of the Month. You go to the Soldier of the Month board where you compete. It's physical fitness, weapons, all these things. You pretty much just show your proficiency as a soldier. And I won. And it was the first time in a long time that I had won anything.
Oh,
And
that's good.
it was so important because when I
Good.
started winning, I wanted more.
Oh, that's good.
A lot of these jobs out here, you work at Target, you work at Burger King, whatever, cool. You stay in the same position for 5 or 6 years. You want fries, you want burgers, you don't become a manager. I started to understand that there was room for me to grow.
Wow.
I started to see money being left on the table. I always had somebody tell me, his name is, he's retired now, Massar McDaniel. He said, if you don't get promoted as soon as you can, you letting them pay you less than you worth.
Oh, all right. Because with promotions come more money.
Come more
they
money.
Pay you
more money
okay.
And more responsibility.
Okay.
And so I started winning these boards. I make the rank of sergeant. Sergeant is when you become in charge of people. So you become in charge of those lower enlisted people. So private through specialist, and you become that. That's when you can start to make a change. You can start to change these things that you saw that was like, why are we leaving at 6 o'clock? If we would have did this could have been more efficient. And so now you got a little bit more wiggle room to make these decisions. I deployed as a PFC, private first class. I deployed as a sergeant. I deployed as a staff sergeant, and I deployed as a sergeant first class.
And those are different rankings.
Different ranks,
high rankings.
Right.
Wow.
But I deployed at all of those levels, and so I just got to understand deployments at those levels. And so again, we just kind of going through just real quick.
Yeah.
I make the rank of staff sergeant. I become a staff sergeant at 4 years, which is the minimum time that it takes. But I didn't understand what I was doing. I was working so hard that those promotions didn't even matter because I was just I was hungry for the next thing. Like I had become obsessed with growing.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to grow. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about anything. I cared about growth.
Ooh.
And then I actually ended up going on recruiting duty in New York City. I worked in Harlem, 125th and Lenox. Best and worst 3 years of my career.
Oh, best and worst. But you had a fabulous apartment.
Oh, I had a fabulous apartment. I was living on the Army's dime. It was great. And I lived a good life.
A fabulous car, a fabulous apartment.
Yeah. And I was living a good life. I got to live like all the people that I saw be successful because I felt like I had finally reached that point where it's like, okay,
you found your place.
I can afford to live here. And I also felt like I found my place in terms of a career.
That's what I'm talking about.
I will go on record and say this. I love the United States Army.
Changed my perspective on it totally.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's all about communication and understanding and education. But I love the Army. Very prideful in my units that I've been in. Just to shout them out real quick: 118 Infantry, 163 Armor, 5-4 Cav, and I'm gonna shout out recruiting, but they don't really make the cut. Anyway,
they gonna get you anyway.
And so now. All right. So when you a staff sergeant is a mid-careerist at that point. You kind of locked in. But a lot of people get stuck at the level of staff sergeant. I realized that I was becoming something in the Army to me when I became a sergeant first class in 8 years. Anybody who knows anything about the Army knows how tough it is, even in today's Army, to become a sergeant first class in 8 years. And it was at the moment I didn't care. I'm gonna be honest, because again, I'm so growth focused. I just want to keep getting better. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep changing things and making it easier and making them more efficient. That I didn't care. And now where I am, I see what I did and I see the changes that I made.
But when you was in it, you was just on go. So you couldn't even appreciate it.
I couldn't see it. And I'm so thankful to God for allowing me to run hard for those 8 years and to allow me to make sound decisions and for somebody to see fit to promote me.
So let me say this. Let me ask you this. I know the answer, but I think it would be great to share it. So what I know about you before the Army, I would always tell you that you also had this gift of inspiration, like, like empowering other people and, lighting other people up, making them feel better, charging them up. And you did that in the Army.
Yeah.
Like right?
As a pretty much, I would say as a sergeant, once you become a leader, it's your job to inspire to lead, to train, and to develop these soldiers, because you know, one day you may or may not deploy, and as a sergeant, it's your job to bring those soldiers home. Officers in the Army are responsible for property. Non-commissioned officers, which is what I am, are responsible for personnel. And so you are responsible for bringing that child home back to their family, whether they're 30 or 40 years old, it doesn't matter. That's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter, nephew, niece, whatever they are, somebody's father, mother, and you are charged with bringing those people home. And I took great pride in, making sure that my soldiers were trained, and, that they understood that I cared about them beyond the Army. I cared about their wives, about their children. I cared about their off time. I cared about their money decisions, financial decisions. I cared about, making sure that they were putting money away for retirement.
You cared about the men. You cared about the soldiers,
yes,
and the women. Like
yes,
you cared about them,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
that was that thing that
Absolutely.
you exhibited. So, and also being away, right? So you said you were deployed 4 times.
Right.
I'm sure just going through all of this, having tunnel vision, working hard, your mom's still home sick, right? During all this time, right? But you still over there doing what you need to do. You're empowering, you working through. I'm sure you've had to have some kind of mental health issues, like some depression sometimes, some anxiety, not just you, because I've also, in my private practice, I do treat some soldiers and ex-soldiers. And, they've told me those things. And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean that's everybody's walk, but I'm just wondering, did you ever experience any of that being in the service? And maybe not knew what to call it at the time, but
I would, no. We know what to call it.
Oh, okay.
I would argue that I experienced what we call functional depression.
Lord have mercy.
Where
depression is not functional, but
not
okay.
at all.
But I got you.
But these are Army terms here.
I got it.
It's functional depression because you have to get up and you got to perform.
No matter what.
Jesus, excuse me. No matter what.
Yes.
No matter what, you have to get up and you have to perform. And a lot of times I put my job before I put myself. I always put my soldiers before I put myself. I would throw myself out on the grill and get barbecued before I let one of my soldiers get barbecued.
Wow.
And so for me, it was, I missed family, and I, missed having a stable relationship with women. And I missed all of these things about living a regular life. But I also understood that from my past life that my success and my growth had to be number one before I could have any of those things back. And so I will argue that, I've always said this about the Army, and this is, you get this big train up for when you leave, but when you come home, they just throw you back in life. And they say, yeah, go ahead and go out. Go to Texas Roadhouse, because that's the only restaurant in town.
Oh, that's why y'all like Texas Roadhouse. I'll be like,
go to Texas Roadhouse.
No, I don't eat there.
Go on vacation.
I mean, allegedly Texas Roadhouse. I ain't saying that negative, but good.
Go on vacation. Go enjoy your family. And you just throw them back in. And that's when those demons start to creep in. But again, like I said, I had these great mentors that pulled me in. And, there was a time when I thought that my life would be, you come home from these deployments and you see these videos of people surprising you and taking you out. But that wasn't me. I didn't have anybody there.
You didn't experience that.
I didn't experience that. But I had leaders. I had leaders in place that loved me as if I was one of their own, and brought me into their house and gave me coming home parties, gave me parting gifts when I left the organization to let me know that what I had done was, it was seen and it was felt, and people were thankful for it and they showed gratitude.
That is so interesting to me, because as we go back, and we're not going to go all the way back because of time, but I'm just thinking, growing up, right? Everybody rallied around you, right? That's how we started out. Like your whole family and everybody, when you went to the service, we all flew down and everything. So I could see, I'm saying psychologically, you feel like a person would feel like, right? How does that just end, right? You start to expect that. So I could see where that, I don't know, you said at whatever time when you came out, there was nobody there to throw you a big party or a surprise or be waiting for you. I could see that actually creating a little bit of depression or some sadness.
Absolutely. But it was more in terms of, well, I'm becoming successful. Had I You know, if we compare it to, had I graduated from college, you know, everybody would be at my graduation. But now that I'm coming home from a deployment, it's very different because a lot of people don't understand.
I was getting ready to say that.
They don't understand what it is, and so now it's just like, oh yeah, you home, and
I was getting
now
ready to
it's
say that.
Oh, come see me. I just came from halfway across the world. I'm absolutely not coming to see you.
Well, you know what? That's so true, Jamal. I think to be fair to your family, me being one of them, right? When you don't know, you don't know.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we weren't used. You're the first one.
Yeah.
I told you we was anti. I'm gonna speak for myself.
Right.
Anti-army. Although I knew when you were in there, you were thriving, and I was happy and I was very proud when you would let me know all of your achievements. But we didn't know that like this is what you're supposed to do until I think it was too late, which was years and years in.
Well, to get back to how we opened this thing up.
Yes.
Y'all didn't know, but God knew. And I think that
Lord have mercy.
I think that had to happen because the fight that I was about to endure,
Lord Jesus,
was going to require me to be by myself and be able to function by myself. And you know, to be honest, at this point in my life, people started to fall off. When I started to deploy, my family started to fall apart. My grandmother passed away, and my grandmother was the matriarch of the family. And so now everybody's just going in their own direction. It's not really any family cohesion anymore, which sadly happens in a lot of families. But again, like we talked about, God was gearing me up for a fight that I didn't know I was going to have to fight.
Lord have mercy. I didn't know that I was preparing for this moment.
Absolutely.
Back to that intention. Okay. All right. So now you at the top of your game in the service.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then pause.
Okay.
We're going to take a break.